Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this square column card. It folds flat to fit in a standard envelope and it has this lovely greeting on the front, but when you don't really open it. When you make it be the card, this is how it would look as you're staring at it, but it has this lovely square column on it and it just stands up. I've seen cards made where this little piece of this side is basic white, but I didn't want to do that because it's such a lovely paper. What I did was I added an extra white panel on the back because there's enough on the front for the greeting, and then you get the full glory of this wonderful designer series paper, Florals in Bloom. So without further delay, let me show you how we make it. I'm going to pop it all the way off to one side because I need to bring in the paper trimmer to show you how you do it. So I'm taking a piece of Pool Party, which as you know is 8.5 by 11, but we're going to cut it down to 5.5 on this side. So we're not actually going to get two cards out of one piece of cardstock this time. We're just going to have the 5.5 height this way. This piece is going to go off and be part of another delicious card, which I'm sure in the future will come back in handy. And then what we need to do is cut the 11-inch length down to 10.25. No, 10 1/8. It was going to be 10 1/4, but that butts the edge up. I'll show you that a little bit later on. And if we do it at 10 1/8, there's enough room that it doesn't get too tight, and we can make sure that the seams all close properly. So 10 1/8 on the paper trimmer. If you don't have a paper trimmer with an arm, why not? But if you don't, all you have to do, of course, is cut off 7/8 off one of the sides. And it doesn't really matter because right now it's just plain. There's nothing different about the front or the back. This piece again is just going to go off and be something on another card. So what we need to do now is do some scoring, and I'm going to score it at 4.25, or I'm going to put the cutting blade completely out of the way. So we'll do it at 4.25, at 5.75. So I'm just lining it up at 5.75 on the trimmer, at 7.25 here, and then the last one is 8.75. And then I will just pop the paper trimmer out of the way, and then what we'll do is we will get to folding all these lovely creases. So I'll bring in the bone folder and fold them as we go along and give them a nice sharp crease. So the last little piece, as you can see, is just that 1/8 of an inch shorter, which is why we did it at 10 1/8 instead of 10 1/4, because when this folds in, it's better if there's not too much body in there, and we can make sure it makes a nice square. So the rest of the pieces, here we have them. There is the basic white piece for the back, which is 4 by 5.25. That's just a regular additional layer sort of size. So I'll go ahead and pop that on the back already. And again, it doesn't really matter which way up it goes because there's no right or wrong yet. And then I will show you the other pieces that we have. So there are 3 flowers that Blue Peter, here's some I made earlier. I cut a square out of Pretty Peacock using the Stylish Shapes, and it was the biggest one, and that is actually 2 3/4. So the piece of basic white that I cut somewhere, hello, oh, it's right here, is 2 5/8, and that will just layer onto that. I've then got a piece of Pretty Peacock, 2 pieces. There's the big piece which goes on the right hand side, and there's the piece which stands on the top of the column. So the peacock, this is 1 3/8 by 5 3/8, and the big piece is 2 5/8 by 5 3/8. Of course, as always, the directions and dimensions will be on my blog, so don't panic about having to make a note of them. The designer series paper is 2.5 by 5 1/4, and that's going to mat onto there. And the piece for the front of the column is 1 1/4 by 5 1/4, and that will mat into there. And the other little thing that I die cut out was this lovely little bit of greenery, because it matches some of these shapes of leaves, and I did that in Lemon Lolly, and I stamped the flowers with the pretty florals, and then I die cut them out with the shape that goes with them. And here's this, it almost looks like seaweed as well. I'm sure I'll be able to make an underwater something using that. And then of course I've got my favorite Simply Said greetings to use for when we get far enough down that we can make that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach the designer series paper to its layer of pretty peacock, and it's really just got the slitheriest little border around it. And again with the very sticky, with the strip that goes on the front. Now for these flowers, this is what I did. I took a piece of cardstock, which I definitely don't have, but I will show you how we made them. So I'm going to bring in the peacock and the pool party. Just going to move that out the way because the peacock is such a dominant color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the outline first, the outline stamp, because it's a 2-step stamp. There's the thick part and there's the outline part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this onto a scratch paper, and then all I'm going to do is ink up in full strength the bottom 4 flowers. So we get this sort of look. It's kind of almost an ombre, but not really. I'll just do that again for you so you can see. So we stamp it all in the peacock, and then we stamp it off. And before we stamp it onto the cardstock that we're going to cut it out from with the dies, I've inked up just the bottom pieces, and then we've stamped it on there. So that's how the outline works. And then we can come in with the second step, and that's just going to be full strength. Actually, there's not going to be any stamping off on that one. So we'll ink it up with the pool party, and we'll stamp and stamp over it. And then you can see that the pool party underneath, and then we've got the overlay section is lighter and darker, which sort of mimics how it is in the designer series paper. So I'll pop those off to one side because we don't really need to cut them, because here are, you know, the ones I made earlier. What I will do while we're busy stamping is I will do just a note. Whoops, and I'm going to do that in the peacock actually. So I'll bring the peacock ink back in. I just popped it away because it's such a strong color. It doesn't want to be accidentally bumped into or anything. And then I will pop just a note over on the right hand side of the diamond shape. And that's that. So we can start and build everything now. So what we need to do is we need to attach this lovely piece of greenery, lemon lime twist. And I'm just going to bring in my silicone mat so I can put some little dots of glue, oops, or big blobs of glue on the back just gently. And pop that just down as far as the edge of the basic white square. And then 2 of these we are going to attach with just regular adhesive. And the last one I'm actually going to attach with dimensionals. So I'm going to put a big dimensional at the bottom, and then I'm going to cut one of these little slithers of the edge off. But I'm not going to put it all the way at the top. I'm actually going to leave it just in the middle because it's going to stick further off once we've got it attached to the square. So we'll just go ahead and attach the layered white square onto the pretty peacock one that we did with the stylish shapes, which is nice because it just gives it that little, I don't know if you can see it in the video, it just gives it a little stitched edging. And then this one, you can pop that off and stick it on so it's got sort of a 3D look to it. So that's all ready for when we've got the card built. So building the card, what we need to do is, this is going to wrap around on itself. So this very end piece we are going to put tear and tape on because it really needs to be sure that it stays put. Or, you know, this is me after all. So it's not really tear and tape, is it? It's cut and tape, but can't help myself. I try to tear it and then I get all, oh no, I need it to be a bit neater than that. So now we have the edge, and what I'm going to do is the first two pieces I'm going to fold over and then peel the backing strips off. And like I said at the beginning, when we made it 2 1/8, there's just a little bit of extra here, which keeps it back so it's not too fat to go into that fold. But what we can do is we can just lay it down on itself. So it was the 2 leftmost we folded over, and then we put it on, and then we make sure that we've got a nice we make sure we've got a nice even square. So now we can go ahead and add the pieces to their panels. So we know this is going to be the very front of it, and because it lies down, we don't have to worry about having attached it first or anything. It makes it nice and flat to attach it to. And then this one is going to go in here, but we needed to be sure that it could be even spaced, so it was better to build the column and then we can put this in. And just because I'm a lefty, I need to do this upside down. So just make sure we've got a nice border around of the pool party. Give that a good press. And then all we need to do is fold this down to be sure that we're getting it in the middle, because it doesn't want to overhang too far on either side, so that we know that it will fit into the envelope. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little strip of tear and tape, if I can find the end, down the middle, just to be sure it stays put. So we'll do that on the diagonal, and then we'll just add a little bit of extra for sureness on either side. And then we can close it down and choose where we want it best in the middle. So now we know when it stands up, there's not actually going to be any sticky shows on either. Oh, can't show you that one, but believe me, there is no sticky on that side either. And then last but not least, this is out of the new catalogue, and these are called Shades of Green Hexagons. I just love them. In fact, I loved them so much, as soon as they were available to demonstrators, I bought 2 packs. So I'm going to pop, one over here. Let's make sure we've got it sticky side down, Alyson. So we'll put one there, and then we'll put a lighter coloured one, a big lighter coloured one here, and then a small green one down, and then it just picks out the pretty peacock colours and the greens. I mean, look at those, they're just lovely, aren't they? So there you have it, two the same. So square column cards. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. That keeps my algorithm busy and it makes sure I can keep bringing videos like this to you. As I said, all the directions and dimensions will always be on my blog, so you can always hop over there and find out what the directions are. If you've got any questions or comments, pop those in the box below and I will always get back to you. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching.